When Emily stood in the rain that night, clutching the pregnancy report, she thought love was supposed to mean trust. But to Alexander Grant, the ruthless millionaire CEO, it meant control. He'd laughed, cold and sharp. "You'll never raise my child, Emily. You're nothing without me." And just like that, he walked away. Months passed. Emily raised her baby girl alone, fighting against every storm life threw at her, while Alexander buried himself in work, wealth, and pride, unaware that his heart was walking around in a little pink blanket miles away. A year later, fate intervened. A charity event, a hospital visit, and a pair of big brown eyes, his eyes staring back at him from a child he didn't know existed. That's when the man who thought he'd lost nothing, realized he'd lost everything. The storm outside mirrored the chaos inside Emily's heart. She stood by the window of their penthouse, one hand trembling around a small white paper, the positive pregnancy test. Rain lashed against the glass as the city lights blurred beneath her tears. Alexander walked in, phone in hand, his sharp suit untouched by emotion. "You're crying again, Emily? What now?" She turned, voice shaking. "I'm pregnant." He froze. The words hung in the air, heavy and electric. His jaw clenched, his eyes darkened, not with joy but disbelief. "Pregnant," he repeated, almost laughing. "And you're sure it's mine?" Emily's chest tightened. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying." He stepped closer, voice icy. "You've been distant for months. You expect me to believe this isn't some trick to tie me down?" Her heart broke in slow motion. This was the man she had trusted, loved, defended. Tears streamed down her face. "I would never." He cut her off with a bitter smile. "You'll never raise my child, Emily. Not without me." Those words sliced deeper than any betrayal. She packed her bags that night, leaving behind silk sheets and shattered dreams. Rain poured over her as she stepped into the street, a woman broken, but carrying the only piece of love that still felt real, the baby inside her. Months passed. Emily moved into a small apartment near the edge of the city. Gone were the diamonds and drivers. Her new world was soft lullabies, second-hand baby clothes, and midnight tears. She took small jobs, typing, designing, whatever paid enough to buy formula and diapers. Every time her daughter, Lily, smiled, Emily found a reason to keep breathing. Meanwhile, Alexander's empire expanded. His face filled business magazines. Always confident, always untouchable. Yet at night, in the echo of empty halls, something hollow stirred within him. He told himself it was loneliness. He told himself Emily had betrayed him, but deep down, he knew he had betrayed her. 1 year later, fate began its cruel dance. Emily rushed into a hospital holding Lily, who was burning with fever. She barely had enough money for a cab, let alone treatment. The nurse recognized the name on Lily's form and raised her brows. "Grant. Any relation to Alexander Grant?" Emily hesitated. No relation. But life doesn't hide truth for long. That same day, Alexander arrived at the same hospital for a charity sponsorship, the kind that bought him headlines and eased his conscience. As he shook hands and smiled for cameras, his gaze caught something across the hallway, a woman with messy hair, pale skin, and a baby in her arms. His heartbeat stuttered. "Emily," he followed without thinking, until her soft voice reached his ears, soothing a crying child. "It's okay, Lily, Mommy's here." The baby looked up. Alexander froze. Brown eyes. His eyes. The same shade, the same spark. The world blurred around him. The reporters, the noise, the flashing lights gone. There was only Emily, sitting on a plastic chair, singing to a little girl who looked exactly like him. "Emily," he whispered. She turned. For a second, she didn't believe it was real. He stood there, immaculate suit, guilty eyes, every inch the man she once loved and lost. "What are you doing here?" she asked quietly. I was told about a charity." His voice cracked. "Is that?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stood, holding Lily protectively. "You lost the right to ask that a long time ago." Before he could speak, a nurse called her name. Emily turned away, walking toward the doctor's room. Alexander stood in silence. Every wall he'd built around his heart crumbling with each step she took away from him. For the first time in his life, Alexander Grant didn't know how to win. Alexander couldn't focus on anything after that day. Meetings blurred together. Contracts meant nothing. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her sitting under the harsh hospital lights, her hair messy, exhaustion written across her face, holding a little girl who looked exactly like him. He'd spent a year convincing himself he didn't care. But now, all he could think about was the sound of Emily's voice saying, "You lost that right a long time ago." For the first time, Alexander canceled his appointments. He sat in his office, staring out the window of his skyscraper empire. Haunted by guilt, he remembered that night, his cruel laughter, the disbelief in her eyes, the way she begged him to trust her, and he remembered saying the words that destroyed everything, "You'll never raise my child." Now that same child had his eyes. He had destroyed the only thing that had ever truly belonged to him. 2 days later, he showed up at the hospital again. He told himself it was business. A donation, a press event, but deep down, he knew the truth. He wanted to see them again. When he arrived, he asked the nurse casually, "The woman from 2 days ago, Emily Walker, how's her baby?" The nurse frowned. "She left this morning. Her daughter's fine, mild infection. They couldn't pay the full bill, but we let her go." Alexander's chest tightened. Couldn't pay the bill. He turned away, shame flooding him. Emily had once lived in his penthouse, now she was struggling to pay a hospital fee, and she hadn't even asked for his help. That evening, rain poured again like it had the night she left him. He found himself driving aimlessly until he saw a flickering neon sign, Sunrise Diner, and there she was. Through the fogged window, Emily sat in a corner booth, Lily asleep in her arms. Her hair was tied back, her clothes simple, but there was still that quiet grace about her, the kind that had once drawn him like a magnet. He stepped inside. The bell above the door jingled softly. Emily looked up and froze. "Alexander." Her tone was flat, cautious. "Emily," he said quietly, "I wanted to see you." To see her. Her hand instinctively tightened around Lily. "Why?" "Out of guilt, curiosity, or another headline for your charity foundation." He flinched. "I deserve that. But please, just listen." She stood up slowly, eyes tired. "I don't owe you anything, Alexander. You made your choice when you laughed at me." His throat tightened. "I know, and I've regretted it every day since." She looked at him for a long moment, then whispered, "Regret doesn't erase pain." He swallowed hard. "Then let me fix what I broke." Her voice cracked slightly. "You can't fix the nights I spent holding her, wondering how I'd feed her. You can't fix the look she gives me when she asks where her daddy is." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "You can't fix that." He stepped closer. "I can try." For the first time, she didn't stop him. He gently looked down at the sleeping little girl in her arms. Tiny curls framed her face. Her lashes rested against her cheeks. His lashes. He felt something shift inside him. Something raw and real. "Her name's Lily," he asked softly. Emily nodded. "Lily Grace Walker." He smiled faintly. "Grace suits her." For a few moments, silence filled the space between them. Heavy but not hostile. Then Emily sighed. "She doesn't know you. Please, don't confuse her life. She's happy." He nodded slowly. "I'll stay away if that's what you want. But please, don't make me stay blind to her existence." Emily hesitated, torn between anger and the small voice inside her that still remembered the man she once loved. Finally, she whispered, "Tomorrow, you can see her for 1 hour. That's all." He nodded, relief washing over him. "Thank you." The next day, Alexander arrived early, too early. He waited outside Emily's small apartment, holding a small teddy bear and a single white rose. When she opened the door, he froze. Emily looked different in daylight, tired, yes, but peaceful. She stepped aside silently, and he entered a home that was simple yet filled with warmth. Children's drawings hung on the wall. The scent of baby powder filled the air, and there she was, little Lily, sitting on the floor with her toys, humming softly. When she saw him, she tilted her head curiously. "Mommy, who's that?" Emily crouched beside her. "That's a friend, sweetheart." Alexander knelt slowly, his heart pounding. "Hi there," he said softly. "I'm Alexander." Lily blinked, then giggled. "You talk funny." He laughed through the ache in his chest. "Do I?" She nodded. "You sound like cartoons." Emily watched quietly, something soft flickering in her eyes. Alexander handed the teddy bear to Lily. "This is for you. Her name's Rosie." Lily's eyes lit up. "Rosie," she said, hugging it tight. Then, without warning, she climbed into his lap. "You smell nice," she murmured sleepily. He froze, and for the first time in years, Alexander Grant, the man known for power and pride, felt tears spill down his face. Emily saw it, and her heart cracked open just a little. Maybe he truly had changed. Maybe time had done what anger couldn't, made him human again, as Lily played between them. The room filled with something fragile and beautiful, hope. But Emily knew hope could be dangerous, because, just when you started to believe in it again, life had a way of testing you all over. For the next few weeks, Alexander visited almost every day. Sometimes he brought groceries. Sometimes he brought toys. But most of the time, he brought himself quiet, patient, and unexpectedly gentle. He didn't talk about the past much. He didn't beg. He just showed up. He helped Lily take her first steps. He held her tiny hands when she stumbled, his laughter echoing softly through the little apartment. And Emily watched from the kitchen, arms folded, her heart fighting a war it had already lost once, because deep down, she could see it. He wasn't pretending anymore. This wasn't the cold, ruthless CEO the world feared. This was just a man who finally realized what mattered. One evening, Emily sat on the couch, exhausted after putting Lily to sleep. Alexander quietly placed a blanket over her shoulders. "Don't," she murmured, eyes still closed. "You don't have to act like you care." He sat beside her. "But I do." Emily opened her eyes, tears glimmering in the dim light. "You broke me, Alexander. You laughed when I told you I was pregnant. You made me feel like I was nothing." He swallowed hard, voice trembling. "And I've hated myself for it every day since. I was scared, angry, stupid. I didn't deserve you then. I don't deserve you now." "Then why are you here?" she whispered. He looked toward the small crib in the corner. "Because she deserves better than the man I was." That was the first time Emily didn't look away. The next morning, everything changed. Emily was rushing to make breakfast when she heard Lily cough hard, sharp, followed by a cry that froze her blood. Within seconds, her little girl's skin turned pale, her breath shallow. "Lily, baby," she gasped, panic rising. She grabbed her phone and called for an ambulance. Trembling so hard she dropped it twice. By the time they reached the hospital, Emily was hysterical. The doctors rushed Lily into the pediatric ICU, and she wasn't allowed to go in. Her world collapsed all over again. She sank into the waiting chair, clutching the teddy bear Lily loved, Rosie. Her tears wouldn't stop. "Not again. Please, not my baby." That's when Alexander arrived. He saw the chaos, the doctors, the machines, the terrified mother shaking in the hallway, and for a moment, it all felt like cruel irony. The same hospital, the same heartbreak. He rushed to her. "Emily, what happened?" She looked up, eyes swollen. She stopped breathing. "They said she might not," her voice cracked. "I can't lose her, Alexander, I can't." He wrapped his arms around her, holding her as she sobbed into his chest. "You won't, I promise, you won't." For hours, they waited in silence. He didn't leave her side once. Not when the doctor came out. Not when the nurse asked for consent for a procedure. Not even when his phone buzzed with urgent calls from his office. He stayed. Because this, not the boardroom, not the empire, this was where he truly belonged. After what felt like forever, the doctor finally returned. "She's stable," he said softly. "A severe respiratory infection, but she's responding well to treatment." Emily let out a broken sob, collapsing against Alexander. He caught her gently, tears in his own eyes. "She's going to be okay," he whispered. "She's strong, like her mother." That night, when Lily was moved to a recovery room, Emily sat beside her bed, brushing her daughter's hair back. Alexander stood silently in the doorway, watching the two most important people in his life, and realizing how close he'd come to losing them again. He took a deep breath and stepped closer. "Emily," he said quietly, "when she gets better, I want you both to move in with me." She looked up, startled. "Alexander." "No," he continued, his voice firm but full of emotion. "This isn't guilt. This isn't charity. It's family. I want to be there for her. For you. Not because I owe it, but because I love you." Emily blinked back tears, shaking her head. "You think love fixes everything?" He smiled faintly. "No, but maybe it's a start." There was silence. And then, slowly, she reached out her hand. He took it, and in that quiet, sterile hospital room, surrounded by the hum of machines and the soft breathing of their little girl, they began again. Not as the broken couple who destroyed each other, but as two people finally learning how to heal. When he laughed, she cried. When he left, she survived. But when fate brought them back together, he realized what he'd thrown away, and she realized what forgiveness could feel like. Sometimes, love doesn't come back to fix the past. It returns to remind you what truly matters: the family, the promises, and the love you once thought was gone. Will he truly change this time? Will she ever trust him again? Watch this powerful story of heartbreak, forgiveness, and second chances, because sometimes, even the coldest millionaire CEO needs a reason to feel alive again.